Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that the people who are meant to love you the most are sometimes the very ones who will hurt you the deepest? What if I told you that family, the very foundation of our lives, can also be the source of our greatest suffering? You see, there is a pain unlike any other. It is not the pain of failure. It is not the pain of heartbreak. No, it is the pain of being rejected by your own blood. The people who raised you, the ones who should have been your safe harbor, now stand as your greatest critics, your fiercest opposition, your silent executioners. And the most terrifying part? You may never fully understand why. But tonight, I will tell you the truth. A truth most people will never dare to admit. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you will see your life and yourself through an entirely new lens. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a pain in this world that few dare to speak of. A pain that lingers in the silence of empty phone calls, in the absence of invitations, in the cold distance of those who were once the center of your world. It is the pain of being cast aside by those who should have been your fiercest protectors, your unwavering support, your home. There are wounds that heal with time, and then there are those that leave invisible scars. Scars that ache in the quiet moments when the mind whispers questions too painful to ignore. Why did they turn away? What did I do to deserve this? You search for answers, replaying the past, hoping to find the moment when everything changed. But the truth is, this rejection did not begin with you. There is a certain expectation in life that family will always be there, that love bound by blood is unconditional. But many of you have come to learn the hard way that this is not always true. Love for some is transactional. It is given only when it is earned, when it serves a purpose, when it aligns with the narrow vision others have created for you. The moment you step outside of that vision, you become an outsider in your own home. The sting of betrayal does not come from mere disagreement. It is not about differing opinions or the usual strains that relationships endure. No, this betrayal is something far deeper. It is the realization that you were only loved for as long as you played the role they assigned to you. The moment you chose to step into your own power, to embrace the truth of who you are, they no longer knew what to do with you. Maybe they withdrew slowly, their voices growing quieter, their presence in your life becoming an echo of what once was. Or maybe they cut you off completely, their words sharp and final, leaving you to stand alone in the aftermath, questioning everything. But hear me now. This was never about your worth. This was never about whether you were enough. This was about their inability to embrace something they could not control. It is an uncomfortable truth, but one that must be faced. Not all who share your blood will share your journey. Some will reject you, not because you have failed them, but because you have outgrown the small space they tried to confine you to. They may call it rebellion, they may call it selfishness, but what they truly fear is that you are no longer bound by their expectations. From the moment we take our first breath, we are shaped by the hands that raise us. We are taught who we should be, what we should value, how we should live. And for a time we follow, because we know nothing else. But then something happens. The world opens up, possibilities expand, and a fire ignites within, a fire that whispers, there is more. Some will celebrate this growth. They will watch with pride as you step into your own, as you carve your own path. But others will see it as a threat. They will cling to the past, to the version of you that was easier to control, easier to understand. They will try to remind you of who you used to be, as if that person was the only version of you they could ever accept. And so you are faced with a choice. Do you shrink yourself? Mold yourself back into the shape that pleases them? Live a life that keeps them comfortable at the expense of your own truth? Or do you walk forward, knowing that in choosing yourself, you may lose them? This is where the pain comes in. Because walking away does not mean you do not love them. It does not mean you do not wish things could be different. It simply means that you refuse to betray yourself to keep their love. There will be moments of doubt, moments when the weight of their absence feels unbearable, when the voices of the past creep in, whispering that perhaps they were right, that perhaps you should have stayed, that perhaps the cost of being true to yourself was too high. But I ask you, what is the cost of living a life that is not yours? Too many people spend their years imprisoned by the need for approval, seeking acceptance from those who have already decided not to give it. They shape themselves into versions that will be loved, not realizing that love given on the condition of compliance is not love at all. It is control. And control disguised as love is the cruelest form of deception. To those who have felt this pain, who have walked this road, know this: you are not alone. And more importantly, you are not wrong for choosing yourself. Growth is often a lonely path. Not everyone is meant to walk it with you. Some will stay behind, clinging to the comfort of what was, unable to embrace what could be. Let them hold on to their version of you, if that is what they must do. But do not let it keep you from becoming who you were meant to be. Their love, or lack of it, does not define you. Their rejection is not a measure of your worth. The only approval you need is your own. The only acceptance that matters is the one you give yourself. And when you do, when you finally let go of the weight of their expectations, when you stop searching for love in places it was never meant to be found, you will discover something extraordinary. You will find your people. Not those who love a version of you that serves them, but those who love you because of who you are. You will build a new family, one not bound by blood, but by choice, by respect, by the kind of love that asks nothing of you but to simply be. So, if you are standing at the crossroads, if you are holding on to the past in the desperate hope that things will change, ask yourself this: what if the love you are searching for is not behind you but ahead? What if everything you need is waiting for you, just beyond the fear of letting go? Step forward. Do not look back. There is nothing for you there. There comes a moment in life when you must confront a truth so profound, so unsettling, that it shakes the foundation of everything you were taught to believe. The moment you realize that the way people treat you has nothing to do with your worth, but everything to do with who they are. That their rejection, their silence, their coldness is not a reflection of your failures, but of their own limitations. It is a hard truth to accept, because for so long you have carried the weight of their opinions, their judgments, their expectations. You have questioned yourself, wondering if you were too much or not enough. If you had only been quieter, more obedient, more like them, would they have loved you then? Would they have stayed? Would they have seen you for who you are instead of who they wanted you to be? But ask yourself this: what kind of love is built on conditions? What kind of acceptance must be earned through compliance? True love does not demand that you shrink yourself to fit inside someone else's world. True love does not punish you for growing, for changing, for becoming more than what you were yesterday. And yet, so many people have mistaken control for love, mistaking their own discomfort for your wrongdoing. There is something powerful that happens when you understand this truth. When you stop internalizing their rejection as evidence that you are unworthy. When you stop believing that their coldness is a debt you must repay through self-sacrifice. When you finally see that their inability to accept you has nothing to do with you. People see the world through the lens of their own experiences, their own wounds, their own fears. Some people will reject you not because you have done anything wrong, but because your existence forces them to confront things they are not ready to face. Your independence may remind them of their own confinement. Your courage may highlight their own cowardice. Your ability to break free may remind them of the chains they refuse to unshackle. And so they push you away. Not because you are unlovable, but because they do not have the strength to love you as you are. Not because you are unworthy, but because they do not have the capacity to see beyond their own limitations. And that is not your burden to carry. For too long you have made excuses for them. You have told yourself that if you just tried harder, if you just gave more, if you just waited a little longer, maybe they would come around. But there is nothing noble about begging to be seen. There is no honor in proving your worth to those who refuse to recognize it. The moment you realize that you do not need their approval, you become untouchable. The moment you stop seeking validation from those who withhold it, you reclaim the power you never should have given away. You were never meant to live your life on your knees, waiting for scraps of love that were never freely given. Look in the mirror and see yourself for what you truly are. Whole, complete, enough. You do not need to be more or less to fit someone else's expectations. You do not need to dim your light to make others comfortable. You do not need to apologize for existing as you are. There is a great freedom in letting go, in understanding that you do not have to hold on to people who refuse to hold on to you. That love should never be a game of endurance, where the prize is the bare minimum of acknowledgement. Real love does not require you to fight for a seat at the table. Real love builds a new table, one where you are welcomed without conditions, without reservations, without the constant fear that you might be cast out if you say the wrong thing, make the wrong move, or grow into someone they do not recognize. This is where true redemption lies, not in their acceptance, but in your own. Not in their recognition, but in the way you see yourself when the world turns quiet. When you sit alone with your thoughts and no longer feel the need to prove your worth. When you understand deeply and without hesitation that you were never the problem. Some will call this selfishness. They will say you have become cold, distant, hardened. They will try to guilt you back into submission, reminding you of the past, of the sacrifices they made, of the things they did for you. But love should never be a debt to be repaid. Love is a gift, freely given, without expectation, without tallying who owes what to whom. And if love was given to you with strings attached, it was never love in the first place. This is where your power lies, in knowing that you owe no explanations for the space you take up in this world, that you do not have to be less so that others can feel more. That the only person whose approval you truly need is your own. And so you rise. You walk forward not with bitterness but with clarity, not with anger but with understanding. Some people will never be able to love you as you are, and that is their loss, not yours. Some people will never accept your truth, and that does not make it any less true. You were not put on this earth to be what they wanted you to be. You were not meant to stay in a box built by hands that feared what you could become. You were meant to break free, to rise beyond their expectations, to step into the fullness of who you are without hesitation, without apology, without waiting for permission. And when you do, when you finally stop asking for what should have been given freely, you will understand something extraordinary. You were never seeking their love, you were seeking your own. And the moment you give it to yourself, you will realize that you were never truly alone. There comes a time when you must ask yourself a question that will change the course of your life. A question so simple, yet so profound, that most people spend their entire existence avoiding it. Whose approval am I living for? For too long you have measured yourself by the expectations of others. You have tailored your words, your choices, your very existence to fit the mold that was handed to you. You have played the part, followed the rules, done everything you were supposed to do, believing that if you just did it right, they would finally give you what you have been yearning for: love, acceptance, belonging. But there is something cruel about seeking approval from those who have already decided not to give it. No matter how much you sacrifice, no matter how much of yourself you erase, they will always demand more. You could spend a lifetime bending, breaking, becoming what they want, only to realize that the goalpost keeps moving. It is not your effort that is lacking. It is their capacity to accept you as you are. And so you must make a choice. Not a choice between them and you, but between illusion and truth. The illusion is that if you try hard enough, they will change. That one more apology, one more compromise, one more sacrifice will finally be enough. The truth is that their approval was never yours to earn in the first place. It was always conditional, always fragile, always given with one hand and taken away with the other. So you stop chasing, you stop waiting, you stop molding yourself into something small just to fit into a space that was never meant to hold you. You realize that your value does not come from being chosen. Your worth does not exist in someone else's ability to recognize it. You were not created to be agreeable, to be tolerated, to be just enough for someone else's comfort. You were meant to be whole, untamed, unapologetically yourself. This is not an easy path. There will be moments of loneliness, of doubt, of aching for a love that was never given freely, but there is something extraordinary waiting on the other side of that loneliness. Freedom. The kind of freedom that comes when you finally understand that you owe no one your silence, your obedience, your suffering. The kind of freedom that comes when you stop begging for a place at the table and build your own. And when you do, you will find something remarkable. You will find people who do not ask you to shrink, who do not flinch at your strength, who do not withhold love as a weapon. You will find those who see you, not for what you can give, not for how well you fit into their world, but for who you are at your core. You see, family is not just blood. Family is who stays when the rest of the world turns away. Family is the people who choose you, not because they have to, but because they want to. Family is the ones who hold space for you, who celebrate your growth instead of resenting it, who do not demand that you become less so that they can feel like more. It is a painful truth, but one worth understanding. Some of the most beautiful connections you will ever have in this life will not come from those who share your name. They will come from those who see your heart, your soul, your essence, and love you for all that you are and all that you will become. So you must be willing to let go, to release the ones who cannot love you without condition, to walk away from those who see your existence as an inconvenience, to stop fighting for a love that is not freely given, not with bitterness, not with anger, but with the quiet understanding that you deserve more. You do not have to prove your worth to anyone. You do not have to spend your life trying to be enough for those who refuse to see you. You do not have to carry the weight of their expectations on your shoulders. You were never meant to live in chains, to dim your light, to ask for permission to exist. So you step forward into the unknown, into the life you were always meant to have. You leave behind the exhaustion of seeking approval, the heartbreak of being misunderstood, the pain of trying to belong where you were never meant to stay. And in that space of uncertainty, something extraordinary happens. You begin to build. You build a new family, not one dictated by blood, but by choice. You surround yourself with those who lift you higher, who do not fear your strength, who do not ask you to be anything other than yourself. You create a life that is not shaped by obligation, but by love, by respect, by the kind of connection that does not demand a sacrifice of self. And as time passes, you realize something. The love you were searching for was never behind you. It was ahead. It was waiting for you to stop looking in places where it was never meant to be found. It was waiting for you to stop proving, stop justifying, stop asking for what should have been given freely. And so you rise, not because they finally accepted you, not because they finally saw your worth, but because you saw it for yourself. You rise not as someone seeking approval, but as someone who understands that love, real love, is never something you have to beg for. You rise, not with anger, but with peace, knowing that those who could not love you as you are were never meant to be part of the life you are creating. You do not belong to the past. You do not belong to their expectations. You belong to yourself, to your own path, to the future that is waiting for you beyond the need for validation. And when you finally embrace that truth, you will understand something profound. You were never lost. You were never broken. You were always whole, always worthy, always enough. And now, at long last, you are free. And now I leave you with this. Family is not just blood. Family is who stands beside you when the world turns against you. If they will not love you for who you are, find those who will. Because you are not alone, you are not broken, and you are far more powerful than they ever allowed you to believe. So rise. Build a new family, one of love, respect, and unbreakable bonds. And above all, never apologize for being who you are. If you remember nothing else from tonight, remember this. You were never the black sheep. You were always the lion. They just feared your roar. Now go, and never dim your light again.